day, everyone. Welcome to my class. Today, we are going to talk about science, and by the way, it's me, Mom Princess, and I'm going to guide you regarding our topic for this day. In today's lesson, we are going to investigate the relationship between the amount of force applied and the mass of the object to the amount of change in the object's motion. So join me as I discuss the three laws of motion. Did you know that physics is about why things move and how things move? It was actually because of Sir Isaac Newton who discovered the three laws of motion. He was the scientist who lived from 1642 up to 1727 and developed the three laws of motion. In 1687, he published this observation in a book called Principia Mathematica, which outlined his understanding of laws of motion. Now, try to look at this picture. This boy who keeps on pushing the car without touching it believes that it will move by itself. Of course not. It is not possible to move by itself. But why? What is the reason behind this? Yes, it is because it is affected by a mysterious thing called inertia. So students, let's get active. Listen attentively and gain some momentum in our knowledge by exploring a vital element of the laws of motion. In Newton's Principia, he describes three laws of motion, and the first of these three is revolutionary. It can be summarized as follows. The Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest will remain at rest, and an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by some net external force. The first part of the statement seems to make sense, since motionless objects typically do not just start moving. But the second part of the statement contradicts much of our everyday experience. Just like when you throw a ball, it will not move forever and will stop eventually. Even for a pushcart, an airplane to stay in the air, and even for a jeepney to move, we need a constant force and must be applied to an object. So where did Newton get this stuff? To understand Newton's first law of motion, we have to understand all the forces acting on a body in a state of motion. Just like our planet as a complicated system, and when we moved around the atmosphere, we experienced things like wind resistance and other forms of frictions, which actually resist motions. This makes us to slow down, requiring the application of a constant force to keep it moving or to keep us maintain our motion. But think of something like a hockey game, wherein players play in an icy surface with a very little friction and therefore it has a slippery surface. So when you gently push a hockey puck, it will glide further than if you push it on a table or the ground. But there is still some friction, so it will eventually stop. Now, let us imagine Newton and Galileo experiment that there is a surface that is completely free of friction, meaning when you push a hockey puck to whatever speed it has, it would be retained indefinitely and it would glide forever unless some force will act upon it to stop. This is the kind of motion in our outer space. All heavenly bodies in outer space are having constant velocity and will never stop moving. Why? It is because there is no friction in the outer space. As it happens, most in the universe is in space and very little of it is on Earth. So we should consider motion in space wherein there is no friction and no wind resistance to be in normal motion. It is motion on Earth in a special case where objects are subjected to different or various variables. This is the reason why car needs an engine that is always running, because there is a resistance from the atmosphere and a friction on the road. The engine supplies the energy to counteract the forces that slow down the car. The ability of an object to resist changes in motion is known as inertia. Force must be applied to get an object moving and again to slow down and stop, meaning force is required to initiate or terminate a motion. In the absence of force, constant velocity remains, meaning only motion with constant velocity requires no application of force. So remember that inertia is the ability of an object to resist a change. An object will have some amount of inertia that is proportional to its mass. It is a value that must be in kilograms as a standard unit. Remember that since inertia is proportional to the mass of an object, more mass means more inertia or greater inertia, and even greater resistance to motion. However, less mass of an object means less inertia and lesser resistance to motion. Think of a little sailboat versus a cruise ship. A strong gust of the wind is enough to make the sailboat going or move. And as it hits a hard material like rock, it will be the time for the boat to stop in moving. But a cruise ship needs a large engine to accelerate from rest. A lot of force is also needed to get it going, and therefore, a lot of forces are needed to get it to stop from moving. In this way, remember that more mass means more force that is required to stop or to start an object. Meaning, mass is importantly a quantitative measure of an object's inertia, whether it is in a state of rest or in a state of motion. As we have said earlier, this only applies to objects that are already in motion. So try to look at this example. If you get into a car accident, the force of impact will stop the car. But your inertia tells that your body will tend to continue moving out of the car. And this is the reason why drivers and or passengers wear seatbelt, because without this, our body will continue moving right through the car windshield. That's why the other name for seatbelt is anti-inertia belt. So Newton's first law of motion can be summarized as the law of inertia and tells us that in the absence of a net force of an object, it will keep in its motion whether at rest or moving in a constant velocity. So moving on to the second law of motion, describing what will happen if some net force is indeed present, whether it is an internal or an external forces. This law tells us that force is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration. This is summarized in a following equation: F equals m times A, wherein F stands for force, m is for mass, and A is for acceleration, which means that we can do quantitative calculation about the magnitude of force, mass, and acceleration. And it shows the derivation of the formula or unit of Newton, that is the standard unit for force. And when we expand the unit of Newton, it is equivalent to 1 kilogram in 1 meter per second squared, coming from the units of mass and acceleration. So remember that the standard unit for force is Newton with the symbol of N. There are numbers of things that we can say about the equation F is equal to m times A, which is really powerful when it comes to physics. First, it means that heavier objects needs the application of greater force in order to achieve the same acceleration as the lighter objects. Here, the first picture tells us that heavier objects requires more mass or more force to accelerate rather, and then the lighter objects requires less force to accelerate. So, therefore, what will happen here is that acceleration is now equal to force multiplied or divided by mass. I will repeat, acceleration is equal to force divided by mass. To cause an object to accelerate or speed up, force must be applied. The force or the more force you apply, the quicker you accelerate. Take a look at this picture example of the two persons using swing. The woman swings faster than the man. It is because the woman is lighter than the mass of the man. So, the more mass it is, the more force is needed to push an object. This also means that the second law of motion can be replaced to state that an acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the applied force and inversely proportional to its mass. So what does it mean? Here, acceleration is directly proportional to net force, meaning the greater the acceleration, the greater the amount of force. And the lesser the acceleration, the lesser the amount of force. While the acceleration is inversely proportional to mass, meaning if mass is less, acceleration is greater. And if mass is heavy, acceleration is lesser. So we are done with the first and second law of motion. Let us now discuss the third law of motion. We are now ready to round out the trio by the last law of motion. Now I have a question here. Did you ever wonder why a nail moves downward when being hammered? This is most famously stated as for every action, there must be an equal but opposite reaction. The Newton's third law of motion or law of interaction is often to be out of context in English or language, but in physics, it means something specific and quantitative. It means that if two objects interact, the forces they impart on each other will be equal in magnitude but in opposite direction. Check the example here. Think of a car hitting the wall. The car imparts an action force onto the wall from its motion, and the wall imparts a reaction force right back on the car, bringing it to quickly stop. These forces are equal in length and point in opposite direction. What it also means that there can never be a single isolated force because any force is happening in an interaction. Remember, force must always come in pairs. Just like this man sitting on a chair, the force of gravity is pulling the man down towards the center of the earth, but the chair points a force pushing up against the force of your body going downward. And this is the reason why you remain still sitting on the chair. The third law can sometimes be confusing because it would seem to imply that no object could ever move, since any force accelerating an object must be always in pairs and in the opposite direction. So remember and do not forget that only forces acting on an object contribute to the motion of that object. To better understand this, let us have another example. When hammering a nail into a piece of wood, the hammer imparts the force into the nail and the nail imparts force onto the hammer. But the nail is driven into the wood because there is a net force acting upon the nail from the motion of the hammer. Likewise, the hammer has two forces operating upon it, the downward force from your arm and the upward force from the nail. That is why, when you strike the nail, the hammer stops moving, roughly on the location where impacts occur. So, if we are looking at the nail, we can only consider the forces acting on the nail. And if we are looking at the hammer, we only consider forces acting in the hammer. Another example, the book on the top of the table. The book exerts a force of attraction towards the earth or towards the ground, while the table gives a reaction force towards the book. This must be true according to the third law of motion. But why is it we do not observe or experience it? Of course, we don't notice this in our everyday living because the acceleration of each object is inversely proportional to its mass. So, we are done with the three laws of motion. Let us have the summary of our lesson. It maybe seems abstract, but it is important to rationalize forces in this way. So there you have it. The first law of motion is the law of inertia, which states that an object will preserve its state of motion unless acted upon by some net force, while the law of acceleration, which is equal to force multiplied by mass and acceleration, and the third law of motion or the law of interaction, which states that for every action, there must be an equal but opposite reaction. So yes, we are done. Let us now wrap up our discussion of the Newton's law of motion. So be ready as we have our activity. Let us check your understanding. Using the pictures, Name the Newton's law of motion present in the given picture. Write law of inertia, law of acceleration, and law of interaction inside the box. Time's up. Let us check your answer. For number 1, it is law of interaction. Number 2, law of inertia. Number 3, law of acceleration. Number 4, law of inertia. And number 5, law of interaction. So guys, it seems that you really understand our discussion for this day. And based on your scores, you got it correctly. Very good. So see you again in our next discussion. Thank you everyone. I hope that you learned new insights in our lesson for this day. I am Ma'am Princess Margaret Chipas, science teacher from Malaya Integrated National High School. Thank you.